What's up, everybody? It is D to the J with a roll away, and we are live on Wednesday. It is time for another great and exciting episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, episode 107. Can you believe it? Holy smokes and sakes alive, episode 107. I can't even count that high. I can, but I have to take off my shoes. Just to let you know. So everybody stand back because no, we won't even go there. I want to say this right off the bat. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, Cindy, how are you? As you come into the show, please leave us a comment. Let us know how you are. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on the Three Amigos page. And we're live on the Disability Global Broadcast and LetGoRadio.net. Yes, we're up and running once again. I'm not, but it is. So that's the way that goes. There are very few people on my show that I have brought back for a third time. But this young lady sitting over here is one of those people. And to bring her back for a third time and to pick her brain for the next hour on the next subject that we're going to talk about, which is a tough one. I am so honored to have her back. Maritza, thank you so much for coming back yet again. It's an honor to have you. If you would just briefly, for those who don't know you and haven't had the pleasure of meeting you and knowing you like I have, please introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, DJ. Thank you for having me back 3 times. I'm honored. So basically, I am a counselor and psychotherapist. I've been in practice for over 27 years. I have a lot of experience with children, families, military, and people with severe illnesses. It's my passion, and I do love what I do. So thank you for having me here.
You have covered so many different things, and one of the things that I love is you are one of the most real people with, and I don't want to say this to disrespect anybody else, but there's not a lot of big words that you have to use to diagnose a problem. It doesn't become bigger than you. You simplify it, and it's amazing. Some of the stuff that you figured out, even in my head, my brain's going, don't say anything you don't want her to figure out. But what I want to talk about today, in the majority of the broadcast, is little problems becoming big ones. And for the first time, I'm going to cover the mental strain and mental thought and also the physical thought of becoming suicidal. I've had a lot of friends recently talk about mental strain and mental health. And from your perspective, let's just start with a general question of why do people put off their mental health and just dismiss it as I'll be okay. It's no big deal.
I think because mental health is still a stigma. We can't see it. If you have a physical issue or an illness or a disease, usually there's a physical symptom that we can identify. With mental and emotional emotions and thoughts, they're all inside our heads, right? Mm-hmm. And there's still the stigma of there's nothing wrong with me. And in addition, especially in North America, we do not like to deal with emotions. We've been told that emotions are weak. We tell children not to cry. And so if somebody does have an emotion that is not either happy or angry, which are the 2 most acceptable ones, mm-hmm. then they're weak.
Is that from, is it male and female both that are dismissing it, or is it one more toward the other? And can you give an example of the, illness where it's tied to the stigma, what makes it the stigma of that emotion? You know what I'm saying? Where what's tied to it to dismiss it?
So I think both men and women do not like to show emotions. However, it is more prevalent in men
Okay.
because they have been shut
Condition.
down to emotions at a very young age, because that in our culture seems to be a very masculine feature, strength, power, right? And being very emotional does not correlate well in our society with being strong and powerful. Being stoic is important.
So when you see the vice versa, when it's a flip, and you see a man or a woman that has that emotion, and AKA wears their heart on their sleeve, or AKA doesn't shut down when it comes to the emotion itself of life, what does that do for you in, I guess I will say, diagnosis?
Well, there's really no diagnosis to it. Usually, if a person's very emotional, they're labeled by others as too much, too emotional, a crybaby, a whiner, type of person,
Yep.
right?
I'm laughing because she's saying all these words. I'm going, heard it, heard it, heard it.
Right. And really, we all have emotions. And the way that I like to describe emotions is emotions are simply our own inner signals telling us that something's off and we have to look at it. For example, sadness, usually, these are generalized patterns, okay? But sadness usually tells us there's something off, I need to withdraw, and I need time to look at it.
Right.
Anger, something's off, and it gives you the energy to say or do something that you normally wouldn't say or do, right? And then there's all these little nuances of those emotions, right? And it's just letting you know, oh, I have to look at something. The problem is we stuff it down until we explode, either emotionally or we get physically ill.
Okay.
Through burnout or some high blood pressure, high cholesterol, but it will come out in the body eventually.
So it will manifest when it's packed down. Now
Always.
I want to go into the packed down, because I know a lot of people like that, to where they shut it down. They get quiet. They withdraw. They become that recluse. They go in their little corner, their little safe place. But before we hit that, I want to, now you guys, this is where, again, I love picking Maritza's brain, because I don't, oh, I don't open up to females. I don't open up to men very well, and I very seldom will open up unless a person can speak on my level and understand where I'm coming from on my level. Not trying to say I'm high and mighty or better than anybody else. It's just that's the way I am. Can you explain or help explain confusion and what makes the back and forth happen? I shouldn't. I need to do this. No, I don't need to do that. What makes that back and forth tendency, or is there a way to explain that?
I think what you're saying is our cultural and society expectations, right? Um, we we should be strong. We should be able to handle this. Don't be a crybaby. Just suck it up, right? Type of thing. And so we try our best to do that. And then and that's okay to do it once or twice. But when you do that over and over and over and over again, you compact all those small stresses. Okay. So all those acute stresses, small stresses that are really no big deal if you deal with them, become chronic stress because they're not being dealt with. And then some other small thing can happen, and that is, what they say, it broke the camel's back.
Straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just so many things that haven't been dealt with that the person just, it's too much.
All right. So we were talking off air a little bit about you build the deck, and the deck's been there for 10, 15 years, and it's worn down. It's still a sturdy deck. The wood's still good, but you got these little tiny nails that start popping up, and you walk out barefooted, and you go, "Ow, what the?" And you stumble on this little nail, this tiny nail, and it makes you stop. Okay, when a problem is a little problem, like I can't even think of a little problem. Not standing up for yourself. Let's just say that you get dominated a lot, or you don't say what you feel, and you just hold it, and you start there. When does it start for a person to still become, and they still diagnose it as this little problem? And I don't like saying the word diagnose, but it's just something small, but it's actually a lot bigger than they see.
Well, it really depends on the person. So if you're not standing up for yourself, and it's really there's many reasons you might not do it. Maybe they're a pacifist and it doesn't impact them. And that does happen, because there's some people who have that type of personality and nothing really, that they roll with. Okay. But for most people, you don't stand up for yourself because you don't feel value for yourself. You don't feel you have the power to stand up. You don't feel that maybe others will listen to you anyway. What's the use? So basically, it all comes down to self-value. Okay. And if it happens enough, it really degrades your feelings of self-value. And we all have a different point, but we all do eventually hit that point where we start to believe that that's the truth. I don't have self-value.
So you do it so much that it just automatically becomes routine?
Right. So I do want to say something about that. And so when we think something a lot, it becomes a habit. It doesn't mean that it's true, but our brain is very efficient and likes habits, and it makes everything becomes, efficient, and that's the first thing you're going to think.
Now you mentioned two things on our last show that I'm going to kind of tie in with this next question. Hey Don, welcome to the show. Don actually has a comment here. I like this. He said, "Heard, don't feel sorry for yourself. There's someone out there worse than you." Kim says hello to the both of us. Hi Kim, how are you? You mentioned survival, and the brain's primary function is to get a person or persons or people to survive. So this question deals with me a little bit, but it deals with a lot of people that I know. I don't like controversy. I will deal with it when I have to, because I'm a talker. I don't like to fight. I train so I don't have to fight, but I have put my dukes up when I've had to. When a person does not like controversy, how can they learn, or are there techniques they can learn that to not necessarily stand up for themselves, but not be demoted because of the controversy? You understand that question? I hope.
So I think the way I'm going to answer that is it's important to be assertive, which means you're not out to change anybody's mind, but it's important sometimes just to say your own truth. Now, we don't have to be assertive in every single situation. Sometimes we just have to choose our battles. But just the simple thing of saying your own truth is enough to validate yourself sometimes.
That's a hard one for me, especially the choosing my own battles. That because when I don't like controversy, but it's when it's against somebody I care about. My first question is, why do you allow that to happen? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to like ping pong the person with boulders to the head. I'm going, you know, well, if you would do this, it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't happen. But I think those are those little nails that I'm driving into the person effectively because they have to handle it the way they feel comfortable doing. And I'm not, again, I'm the fixer trying to fix it and I can't do it. But I guess can they, is that related to self value as well?
Yeah,
As far as, and is it not necessarily that they don't have enough, but they they see that person as more important than them?
it could be so many reasons. It could be that they do see that other person as more important. Maybe they've been taught, to be humble. Maybe they, who knows? There's a lot of reasons, but um, it is important though to speak our truth at times. It really is.
Hmm. Kim said this. She said, "I will speak my mind when and if I have to, but I'm a very laid back person, so I'm not too sure if that's a bad thing or not. I don't think it's a bad thing to be
No.
laid back. I don't think it's a bad thing to pick your battles. I don't think it's a bad thing to be the type of person that you are. But what you don't want is, and I'm not the psych, therapist with a degree, but you don't want people to overpower you and stomp you into the ground and tell you what you have to do."
I agree with you, DJ.
Um, woo, woo. I'm just sorry. That's like it's because you see that intimidation and parents will do it,
Hmm.
especially when a child is no longer a child and they're in the parents' household. Now look, I understand you're under my roof. You respect my rules. I have heard that so many times. That's why I moved out when I was 22. I was out in my own roof. But some cases that can't happen. I get it. And I respect the fact that you have to respect the rules of your parents' household. But you don't have to hold it up.
Right.
It's not your job to take care of everything. It's not your job to be a parent when you're not a parent. It's but that's hard because you want to care for your parents because you love them. If my mom cries, I'm like, "Oh God, don't do that. No, don't get sad. You're not allowed." Like, because then I break and I'm like, "Fine, fine, I'll do it. Whatever here. I'll just do." And I don't know if it should happen that way.
So what you said is so important. And what's wrong with your mother being sad?
To me, I don't like it. I don't
You're
want to see I don't want to see her hurt.
right. And that's exactly, we went back full circle. You just mentioned how you're uncomfortable with her sadness
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want her to be sad. So imagine that in someone themselves. They're
Um,
uncomfortable with their own big emotions and they don't want to feel them. And so they squish their own emotions.
wow. Yeah, yeah, and they shut them down. They want to be
Mhm.
numb to everything. And again, she takes the ball bat and the ball and just there it goes. So let's dig into that a little deeper. We were talking about mental health earlier, and we were talking about how it has become almost second nature, but it manifests itself in other things. So as far as people, all you can do is tell them how you feel.
Mhm.
They have to see, and this is something I've recently dealt with. They have to see their own feelings, they have to see their own compromises, and what's the hardest sentence for me to realize is they have to see their own life. And no matter how hard you try, some people are going to just do what they want to do, and you're just up creek without a paddle, and there's nothing you can do
Mhm.
about it. But that's not a bad thing. Because if a person figures out their own life, then they're going to see the pile that they're in eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to decide whether they want to get out of it because it's comfortable, or they want to make a change because they're tired of being where they are.
Exactly.
But I don't want to get it to the point of the mental breakdown where I'm not worth it anymore. And I very seldom, and once or twice in my life, I have gone to that point.
Mm-hmm.
When I lost my ex, my first girlfriend that I knew off and on that I still know off and on for 20 years, I had the knife to my throat and I said, it's over. I went to pick up the knife a second time and the knife wouldn't come up off the counter. I couldn't pick it up. It was too heavy. My friend came over. He opened the door. He had a key. He said, we're going to IHOP. I said, no, we're not. I'm in my pajamas. He saw the knife sitting on the counter. He picked me up, tossed me over his shoulder. He's 6'2", 220, throws me in the truck, and we go to IHOP, and we sit there for 9 hours. I lost all conception of time, ate my burger and my fries, cried, got mad, got angry, went through every emotion to acceptance, and we sat there for 9 hours. And he would not let me leave until I talked about what was on my mind. And the funny part is, this is another one, and maybe I know you can shed some light on this one. I didn't even know what was really bothering me until I got all the other crap out of the way.
That's right.
So how do we get the other crap out of the way if we don't know what's bothering us, not to hurt other people because we don't want to? And no matter what we say, it comes out wrong.
Well,
I got her with a big question right there. I saw the breath like, oh, God.
We don't always have to tell the other person. But what your friend did for you is exceptional. He gave you the space, and it sounds like in a non-judgmental way, to express your grief and your feelings. And once that layer came off, all the stuff underneath was able to be expressed. And so that's usually how it works in my therapy sessions. You come in thinking it's one thing, we talk about it, and then other little things start popping up, which is the core issue. And the core issue here was you felt maybe that you weren't good enough without her.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So the core issue was your self-worth, not the breakup.
Ooh. You're right. I felt like I was a pile of steaming cow dung. I was see, she did it again. I didn't even and she went. It's amazing because she talked about it meaning she said, what was the word she used? Gosh, not self-worth, but value, self-value.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I've heard it so many times, and this is that point that we hit that button. If you don't love yourself enough, how can you love somebody else? And I invested so much in her. Now, I'm not going to say it was all bad because it wasn't. It was really good. Some of it was really, really good. You don't stay with somebody off and on for years to leave it. And even she got the 3-strike rule, but we still remain friends and more than that, because when I love somebody truly, when I give my heart to them, and this is me, I can't not take it back because it's not mine to take back. That's just me, old fashioned. A couple of comments I want to read here. Thank you, Tony. I love your shirt that says the Munchies. And then, okay, in my opinion, ultimately, you can't change people. They can change themselves. Wow, this show is very interesting so far. Faith says boil tea. That's a, I mean, for, you know, sometimes you have to do whatever it takes to calm down. Sometimes it's the music. Sometimes it's the TV shows. Sometimes it's going in a room with nothing there and screaming at the top of your lung. I did not know, what do they call it? A room where you break stuff. You just bash it with a mallet, the break room or whatever they call it. I was in a therapy session and I was so angry. It was just there, and I felt it. It was like right here, and I'm just like, no, I'm in therapy. Everything's going to be fine. And he gave me the ball to throw, and I threw the ball, and this ball weighed 500 pounds. It was a baseball, but I couldn't throw it. I was so angry that I just locked. And he said, what is preventing you from throwing the ball? And I went, I don't know. He goes, what is preventing you from throwing the ball? I said, I don't know. And he asked me a third time. I said, I told you, I don't know. Why? And I threw the ball. And it hit the door, and I heard the sound. And when I heard the sound, I went, oh, Jesus. And it was like this moment of reflection and like, what did I just do? Did I just lose myself in my anger for a second? Was I allowed to do that? And he said, you put everything you had in the object and you released the object. That's the problem with most people. They hold it. And I went, I'll be damned. I went, okay. And I left the office. It was like, that was simple. $500 later, I'm like, oh, for that, really? Okay, I'm sorry about the door. But I saw it. But I think people need to realize in this, distress room is another term. Smash house, that's another one. People need to realize, when it comes to this, you gotta have somebody to talk to. They don't have to have a title. You don't have to find the greatest therapist in the world. I found her. I know, but I think that people dismiss the idea of, I'm not going to therapy. No, I ain't talking to no shrink. I ain't doing that. I ain't telling her my problems. No. What could it hurt?
It could hurt their own self-image. I think they're really afraid to find out that there might be something wrong with them.
Isn't it okay to have something wrong with you, though? Because the last time I checked, none of us are perfect. So can't we have something wrong with us to begin with?
So you know what? My personal view is that everybody who comes into my office is a whole person with a W, whole. They have things to work on, but they're not broken. And if you know that you're whole, but just have things to work on because you want to grow as a person, that's a safer place than saying, I have to fix myself because I'm broken. So emotions, all that stuff, we think that there's something wrong with us. And that's our biggest fear. There's something wrong with us. We're broken, so we have less value. I will tell you, everybody has that fear at some point. Everybody. Some more than others because it's on a continuum.
I want to read this out loud because I see so many people like this. Thank you, Christina, for being here. When I'm angry, I like to put myself to work so that I can be productive instead of stewing in anger. I think there's a good and a bad side to that, because when you are distracting yourself, which is actually what you're doing, it can be good for a while. But when you come back to everyday life and you get back to where you really are and you don't have to do something to make yourself not be angry, are you really dealing with the problem? And then the second thing is, um, it's okay to be angry, but you don't want to stay there. Uh,
Mhm.
and again, that's Miss Wilson all over. I never really thought I had when I was a teenager till I was about I had a temper bad, and sometimes that temper will whoop, and I'm like, oh wait, whoa, let me go that out of there. But I think it can be dangerous to distract yourself too long and not deal with it. I just want to get Maritza's opinion on that.
I think you answered that beautifully, because it's important. We get angry once, but you're right. What is behind the anger? Our emotions are indicators for us to look at something. And if you don't look at it ever, then you never figure out what it's trying to tell you.
Mm, mm, mm. This,
Maybe somebody was being rude. Maybe somebody was, whatever. So the decision is, do you want to be in that relationship? Maybe it's a
mhm,
coworker. Can you do something about it? Maybe you just simply have to accept it, but then just know your own value. But
right.
it's looking behind that.
Hmm, hmm. Again, going into reading scripture, listening to worship music, cooking, serving others to take my mind off being upset. I totally get that. I
Mhm.
totally get that. And I think that's okay. But I want you to know that it's okay to be upset, but deal with the why. Okay, I'm gonna rip off a band-aid here. Okay. Can't believe I'm gonna do this on the air, but whatever. A friend of mine who is a martial artist that has trained with me for a couple of years, my buddy Rick, I was dealing with something and I wanted to handle it. And a situation come up and he goes, "What is the real issue here?" I go, "What do you mean, what is the real issue?" "I'm telling you what the real issue is." "No, you're not. Go back and stop for a second and think about what the real issue is." And I'm gonna. The issue was, I'm gonna be here and not show up. I'm gonna do this and not show up. I'm gonna set you up for this time and not show up. I'm gonna come here and not show up. And I went, oh my god! And it hit me like a baseball bat to the gut. I remembered, and I went, oh my god, Rick! I had to stop myself. I was shaking. I remembered that my father used to do that when I was a child, all of the time. He used to say, "Daddy's going to come get you. Get your stuff. I'll be there in 20 minutes." What
Mhm.
do? I get excited. I pack my stuff, my socks, my underwear, my braces, and I wait by the door.
Mhm.
And he didn't show. Over and over. When I was a child, Dad's doing much better now. Just letting you know. When I was a child, I didn't understand Dad was busy. I didn't understand Dad had to work. I didn't care. Don't tell me you're going to show up and not do it.
Right.
That's my feeling. That's my and be okay with how you feel in the moment that you feel it. Don't dismiss it, but don't look at it as the only thing you can ever feel, because when you what happens is you carry that crap. So it
Mhm.
started happening over. I expected it. My mom said, "You're not going to see him anymore. You're not going to do that to my son anymore." Boom, cut it off, done. I mean, I'm 15 years old seeing my dad like this. And I'm going, "Hi, Dad. How are you?" Stupid mother. Because I'm carrying all this anger because I'm looking at you going, "Oh, you finally showed up? Oh, you finally decided to." until we had that talk,
Mm-hmm.
it took us, let me rephrase that. It took us, not me, 35 years to rekindle something that I didn't know was possible. I did not know he had it in him. I did not know that a 60-some-year-old man could mature and go, you know what? I was wrong. I'm going, what? You, what? What the? I'm ready to go to town, and I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm like, oh, great. You just took all the fun out of it now. I tried to be mad, and I tried to be angry, and I tried to take all that crap that I had held for years and years and years and years. I couldn't do it. So you carry all that stuff. And then when you see somebody else do it, flashback, bang, and you get hit with the ball bat in the gut. And that's just a little bit. How often does this happen? It's a recurrence.
Well, that is a sign of emotional maturity to finally take responsibility for your actions. And like, for example, one of the reasons, I know we're not talking about addictions, but one of the reasons the 12-step program works so well is because in one of the steps, you have to write down all the things that you've done wrong, you've harmed a person, and actually go and ask for forgiveness. So you're actually taking responsibility. And the goal is not for them to be like, oh, I love you, because they could still be angry. I mean, you weren't. Just the fact that you took responsibility and ownership starts the healing process.
Yeah. My father and myself, our relationship is totally different now, which is scary. He shows up now with stuff. Hey, you guys want some lunch? What the heck? Like when he first started doing it, it shocked the living crap out of me. And I told him, I'm like, Dad, you're just here. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I had to think, what did he do? Emily, what did he do? Like, this is not the, and it happened again and again and again. And I'm like, all right, there's some effort there. It's got to be. So then I talked to him about it. And we had that talk of, this is why I felt this way. And then when we addressed the issues, I'm going, who are you and what have you done with my father? This is crazy. We don't, because I was, in his mind, I was his little boy. I was always that. Now I've grown into a man. Dad, don't talk to me like I'm two. You know, we had that. So moving into the last 30 minutes of the show, how do we deal with all of this and not let it get to the point of it's over? Because so many people take their lives because they don't have someone to talk to, because they don't have someone to reach out to, and they think it's over before they even, because all they can see is the tunnel vision. Is that, maybe I'm on to something a little bit, maybe?
Yes. So suicidal thoughts can come as a result of clinical depression, where there's feelings of hopelessness and helplessness and sadness and lack of pleasure and things. But it can also come from what we have been talking about, years and years, or incidents and incidents of things not working out, not dealing with them. And then it just piles and piles and piles and piles. And then you feel it's hopeless anyway.
Okay. And I'm glad you said that. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
And that maybe you don't have a friend or a family member who you can talk to. And that's why it's important. There's also a lot of these, toll-free numbers. We can call somebody 24/7. 24/7. Just pick up the phone and talk. And they can't see your face, but sometimes it's enough just to get it out.
I want to kind of go. Let me. This is he shocked me with that. The issue I have is when people decide, what should I do with my life? I decide what I want to do, and not you. I think, again, that's a societal statement because people, when you invest your life in people, what are you really investing in? How much of yourself are you putting into your own life? Are you living your life for someone else or are you living your life for yourself? I have found in my 40 years, that I cannot invest my life entirely in people. I gotta be honest. I need pizza. I need people. If it weren't for this lady right here, sometimes I'd be like, I, and it's not even a counsel session. It's just that little nugget of you're gonna be all right. Try this, okay, and then it's fine. But I think when you look too much at people and you don't take control of your life for yourself, I think you lose your value in yourself and rely too much on what people tell you.
So, one of the things I like to say in a pretty balanced relationship, think of the number 8 or like an infinity sign between two people. It could be a partnership, a friendship, co-workers. This works for every relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marriage, spouses. In a balanced relationship, there's give and take. Give and take.
Mm-hmm.
So you give and you receive. When you love yourself, you give lovingly, but then you also receive lovingly. Okay? The problem is when it's off, and it's not going to be 50-50, but overall a flow. When you give too much or just take, it's off balance and it's not going to work. And then there's conditions, just like this gentleman said. It's true. Unconditional love is acceptance without judgment. But we have all these preconceived ideas of how we should be, how the person should be, how all these things should be.
Unconditional love is what now?
Acceptance without judgment.
Y'all hear that? See, I thought I loved unconditionally. I think I might be judging a little bit, maybe.
I will tell you that no human is really, really good at it. It's just being aware of it. Probably the closest we can get is to a child. You know what I mean?
See, that's why I love her, because she makes it, if you think about the innocence of the child, that's, man, did she hit that. Jeez. Oh, Tony, great comment right here. Also, when you have a disability, people struggle because of lack of access and pain that many discredit and discount it. I'm gonna cover this, and I wasn't, but I have to. I have to, because you're a person. Your mom had cancer. Your dad had cancer. They passed away. You're failing. You're going through all these medical tests, and you have kidney problems, and you go through da. She just hit it again. All of these things over and over. Pow, 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 pow. And you say to me, I can't take it anymore. And what do I say to you? I turn, I say, you're worth it. You're worth it. You have to keep fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I get it. I get it. You know, it wasn't exactly suicidal, but I will tell you this. What scared me, you know the movie It's a Wonderful Life, and I think we covered this last show a little bit. I got to the point of, I wonder what my life would my friends' lives would be like, or the people that I know would be like, if I wasn't around. One person can make a difference, and it's so impact on this show. Wow, almost cried twice. Okay, it's so impactful because when you feel lost or hopeless, I don't like hope, and I say this, and a lot of people, some people get it, some people don't. Hope to me is a beggar. I hope I get the car. I hope I get the house. I hope I find someone that's 6'2", blonde hair, blue eyes to love me. I hope, I hope, I hope, I hope, I hope. That's an open-ended. Faith to me is I believe this is going to happen. I know this is going to happen. I will be getting the car. I will be put it into action as to let it start going. When you feed negativity, you get negativity. When you feed positivity, you get positivity. It's its own root. Ooh, that was good.
Was
Sorry. I just a lot of comments right now. Wow. And always like in the middle part of the show is when they roll in, man. This happened last time. Um, I roll around with pride. Goodness gracious. I roll around with pride, and I would rather be alone than have fake friends and family because they want to look good in the eyes of others. Jamie, one of my best friends, I never judge anyone who when I was a kid because I wasn't even aware of any reason to judge. Beautifully said. To judge them, I didn't think about people that way. Everyone was just Mr. Blank or Mrs. Blank, just people. Oh, Don Hunter. Oh boy. Sideline. When I was young, I sat on the side and I watched them run. I watched them play. They played soccer. They played tennis. They played hockey, baseball. I've seen them win. I've seen them lose. I've seen them jump for joy when they win. I've seen them in fits of rage when they lose. I often wonder what that would be if they sat on the side and watched others lose, and we do. Donald E. I'm not sure who the last person is. I. It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just sit on the sideline. You've got to partake in life to make it happen. You can't. And just if I'm wrong, please. But I've been dying to say this statement, and it just opened. If you don't participate in life, if you want to get something out of life, you have to do something in it. Things are not just going to be all handed to you. A lot of people say, I'm waiting on God. Do you ever think he's waiting on you to get up and actually start something? And I'm not trying to be religious toward anybody. I'm trying to be truthful. If you want a ball to go in motion, you've got to kick it, hit it, pick it up, and put it in the net. The ball's not going to go there with you going, unless you're really, really good and can pick that bad boy up with your brain. Did I hit anything?
I really agree with you. You have to put things in motion. I will say most people are self-centered and they don't think about people outside themselves. And
what do you mean?
So, for example, what Don was saying, those kids were probably not even thinking about Don sitting on the sideline, right? It takes a really empathic person to think about that person who maybe can't participate the same way. But you only need one empathic person to be like, hey, come on in, right? And we can be that person for each other, and it's about recognizing that even if we're not perfect, we have great value.
All right, 48 minutes in, she got me. Okay, I'm good now. I'm sorry. It just, wow. That's, my mom always said you can do anything that you put your mind to. A lot of my friends say that. I believe in you. You can do anything. Put out a music CD, whatever. I did all that. Things are happening in my life because I'm working and putting in the effort. That's what I was looking for earlier. In order to allow life to happen, there has to be effort in life. And you're not always going to succeed and you're not always going to fail. But like I say, failure is not an option. It's just a different way of getting things done.
Can I say also, though, something, DJ? You had somebody, your mom, who really believed and supported you in your dreams.
Yeah, I agree with that. if it wasn't for my mother, and I'm a person that has two moms, and I can say that on the air. My mom's probably going to go, "What the heck are you talking about?" My mother believed in me since day one, because since day one I've had to fight. When I was born, I had a 10% chance of living, and the doctor said, "I doubt your son's going to make it." Mom said, "You're crazy." So God had plans for me since day one. I know that, and I appreciate that. But you got to fight. You got to fight, because life ain't rounds of just sit there and get it all. Nowhere in life does it say life's going to be easy. I've heard the expression, you things never go the way you expect them to go. Don't expect anything, just live.
Right.
I very recently have started living life without expectation, and that's hard, because I got a C to empath. Miss Wilson has taught me, my mom has told me, you can't always see what's at the end. You can try and mess yourself up, because you're thinking you're there, and you got 6 other roads that split off somewhere, and you're like, crap, now I got to figure out what next path to take. I'm not always going to get it right, but I'm worth it. There's nothing worth taking a life. Nothing. Your own, no matter how bad it seems, you're worth it. But please, please, please talk to somebody. You've been sitting there your whole time, just ain't nobody, I ain't gonna do it. What could it hurt? Let the hurt out. Y'all sitting there and thinking it ain't gonna get no better. Not if you don't do anything about it. If you sit there in the same stuff, to keep it clean, that you've been sitting in for years, and you don't change it, how are you gonna fix it? How are you gonna even? It only takes this much light to get through darkness. Good things, your life can't be bad all the time. Do you know anybody? I'll ask the professional. That's her new nickname. Do you know anybody that their life is completely 100% negative?
No.
It can't be, can it? I mean,
I'll give you a perspective. So rather than saying bad things, challenging things happen to us because we all have a barrier, okay? Like a shield. Because things have happened to us, right? So I like to say it's like a walnut. Life has to crack through that walnut to get to our real, valuable, meaty self. You know what I mean?
To the sustenance.
Exactly. And so challenging things will continue to happen till you're like, that's it. You know what I mean? And then you see your real value, because it's always been in there, but we've had this wall around it.
What would be your best technique or advice to get someone to see their self-value?
The easiest thing we can do is really listen to a person without judging what they're having to say. How many people do you know that listen well? I don't know very many. And it's just, so how many times have you tried to say something and then somebody cuts you off with their thing or their advice or whatever? Just listen to them without judgment. It shows that you respect them and that they have a safe space to be themselves. That's the easiest thing I can think of. Just like your friend did when he picked you up and listened to you for 9 hours.
And the funny part is, going through all that, I look at the time, it's 3:00 in the morning in IHOP, and The waitresses are just sitting there. Nobody's coming over. Nobody's trying to get me to leave. I felt so light.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't recognize my own self being. I was so, I slept after that happened. I slept for 2 days,
Amen.
48 hours straight. I was so tired and carried so much. Last 5 minutes of the show, guys, I told you, she is, this lady, you gotta, I don't think there's a problem. Is there a problem you haven't encountered?
I'm sure there have been.
I mean,
There's some,
you've been doing this what 27 years now?
yes.
Gosh, I would have met you. I wish I would have met you 27 years ago. I would have.
I didn't know what I know now 27 years ago, though.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, there's a simplicity to life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that simplicity that I don't think people don't take seriously. It comes down to three things, and I said this. I've said this to Kim. I've said this to Cindy. I've said this to Jamie. Um, you know, you realize that you're know your worth. Again, that's Miss Winnie. We've talked about that. Put positivity inside of yourself and let it come out. Because I would rather lift someone up than tear someone down. But here's the thing: when you're dealing with a situation, I ask myself three questions. One, does it make you happy? Two, what does it bring to the table? And three, and this is a big one, can you live without it? I realized recently that I can't live without something. I'm going to say what that is. I realized recently I cannot live without it. I've tried, and I've denied myself. I've angered myself, got mad at it, told it I never want to talk to it again. Said, I'm not going to do this again. Tried to shut it off, tried to turn it off, tried to block it out. Can't do it. Can't do it. When it's real and when it's valuable, that should show you how valuable you are to me. And the person knows who I'm talking to. I hope that this shows you how valuable you are to me. And that's who my friendships are. I have some valuable friendships. But it's not just valuable in money, it's valuable in purity. Like the worth of it. So thank you for being on the show again for part three. Might get a part 4 or 5 months down the road. I could bring you back 60 times and go, man, I just got to bring her back 61.
I do want to. Can I respond to one thing?
Sure.
There was a comment that said, fake family and fake friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do work on yourself, sometimes we outgrow our family and friends, right? And sometimes at that point, our family is the people that we choose to be around. And we don't always, it's to find people who are conscious, sometimes takes time, but it's that new cliche about finding your tribe. It's surrounding yourself with people who will accept you for who you are, not who are fake. So I do have to agree.
Wow. Don Hunter said, simplistic, a whole new show. This has been a great show. Maritza, I'm gonna tell you, I was hoping that this would happen, and I knew that when you got on the show, and even the person I would hope watch this, and I was like, yeah, for who you are. Take the person for who they are. That's amazing right there. It's just because they take this thing about family that it has to be blood. Family does not have to be blood related. I've got friends and a group of people and some people in my life that I would take a bullet for.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, that's not just words coming out of my mouth. That's a live action. And I've got one more question for you. I know we're going to go a minute over, but you know what? I don't care. I want to get this question out there. In all of your years of doing this, in 27 years is a long time. I have always, and I've never asked you this question. One of my biggest and hardest things to get rid of, and maybe we can go off the air, talk about it a little bit. I always feel like people are going to get tired of me eventually. How in 27 years have you not gotten tired of doing this? And how do you keep going? I know it's part of your passion. I know that's part of the answer, but how do you do that? I mean, 27 years is a long time.
So I believe it's my gift. And I do get bored of things. So what I've done is I started off with children. And then when I felt I was good enough with that, then I went to the elderly. And when I finished with that, then I went with adults. So it was always in the helping field, but with different populations, different challenges, different scenarios where I could grow and learn from those scenarios and be even better. So that's how I haven't gotten bored of it.
What is next for you, do you think? Is there a next?
I'm kind of like you with expectations. I just have my private practice for now. COVID, I was very, very busy with COVID. So I'm looking for a better family work balance at this moment and just taking a little bit more time for myself.
That's so
But
important.
yes, because I worked a lot and I was at the edge of burnout. So now it's time, I still love what I do, but I'm going to take some time for myself too.
I've got to say this, and I don't mean to get all mushy. Please forgive me for going over, but I value this so much. And the realism of when you're close to burnout, when you real self-care is so important. Winnie Wilson has said that a million times. You have to take care of you're on an airplane, and that airplane is going to go down. I got to use this analogy. And the little stewardess comes on in her little uniform, and she's showing you how to operate the oxygen mask and how to do all this stuff, how to do all these things. You got to put it on you first, because if you can't breathe, how can you allow anyone else to breathe? Please know these three things. Take time for yourself, value your worth, know that you're important, know that people love you. And if you are feeling stressed, if you are feeling like you're on the edge, if you're feeling like you don't have it anymore, you can't deal with it anymore, talk to somebody. Wake them up. Wake them up. Talk to somebody. And don't get burned out, because you've got to be able to keep functioning. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to have Maritza back again, I hope. I don't know when, because I know she's a very busy lady, and she has already taken so much of her time to help us, and it's so valuable. My gosh, you are like, I wish I could just carry you around and go in my pocket and go, Maritza, what do I do? And it's not even just the advice. It's so much of all right, let's rip off all the leaves and the twigs and the stuff that you've buried, and let's look at what the real issue is. No one is ever going to always get tired of you. I had to realize that. That's never always going to happen, because you don't always or never. That doesn't exist. But again, you matter. That is so true. I thank everybody for tuning in. Thank the people that were here for this, because to talk about this stuff is needed. Because if we don't talk about it, how can we know? Disability or not, blind, deaf, one arm, no arms, no legs, 6 arms, alien, purple, green, I don't care who you are. If you don't talk about it, how are you going to know? And if you don't let people know, how can someone help you if you hold it in by yourself all the time? That's it. A minute, 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 53 seconds of pure great info. Whew. Show 107, boy. Good God Almighty. Any final thoughts, Maritza? Just kind of want to throw it to you for a second.
I think, DJ, you have a great platform allowing people to voice what they're feeling. And you do a great job in doing that. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for what you do.
Last question. We got a couple of comments. How can we connect with you, Maritza? How can you share just a little bit of that? Is there a way to connect with you, or for people to find you, or what you want to share with that?
Well, as a counselor, I can only counsel people in either Michigan, Florida, or Ontario. So I do have a website, MaritzaRodriguezArsenault.com. You can just send me a note that way.
Okay. If you will, when we get off the air, go to the comments and put that in so that people can send you a note. I'm telling you, she's really, really, really good. But I'm gonna move to Florida. I'm just saying. It's already hot down there anyway. But I got to move to Florida. I might move to Michigan. Heck, I might go to Canada. I don't know. But if I could bottle this up and be like, what do I do? Okay, just long enough to. But thank y'all so much. This has been a great show. I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. D to the J with a roll away. We will see you next week. Thank y'all so much. Wednesday, 7 o'clock, episode 108. Don't be late. See you when I see you. Peace.